My name is Paul Pettis. In the November elections of 2016 and 2020, I will be your independent write-in candidate for President of the United States of America. Prison reform. We need some fundamental prison reform in this country. You can ask anyone who is in prison, who has recently been in prison. You can ask the loved ones of those who are in prison or recently been in prison. They recognize the necessity for prison reform. Some issues that we need to work on. Let's start with the Constitution of the United States of America. The 13th Amendment, which forbids and condones at the same time slavery and involuntary servitude. Amendment 13, Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Section 2. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. This loophole, not really a loophole, this constitutionally protected form of slavery and involuntary servitude has been took advantage of, has been manipulated by corporations who want cheap slave labor legally in this country. So they bribe their little congressman, campaign contribution, so they can get the inside track on the prison's farmed out slave labor, working for pennies per hour. They go work an 8-hour shift and they don't have enough money to buy a meal at a fast food restaurant. Now, of course, people are there being punished, but it's the well-behaved prisoners who get farmed out. The more dangerous criminals are kept in prison. They're not allowed to be made into slaves or involuntary servitude. And you can say, well, those people volunteer for it, but you know, when you're trapped in a situation, you can volunteer for something, but the reality is you're really not volunteering. It's just like people who are stuck in inner cities and the only way they see out is to join the military to get a free education. It is a form of bribery, a form of manipulation. Oh, we're going to let you prisoners get out of prison for 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, counting traveling. Well, of course they don't want to get out of prison. Prison's horrible. Prison is terrible. With cable TV and 3 meals a day, your own private room, it's still terrible because you have to do what you're told, when you're told, how you're told to do it. You have no freedom, except the choice to become a slave or servitude. The most severe penalties in our country for crime should be reserved for politicians, for anyone who holds an office of public trust, and they betray that trust by betraying their oath to uphold, preserve, and defend his Constitution, and they subvert someone's constitutional rights. Those people should face the highest and toughest and most severe penalties in our country. Prison should be reserved for them, murderers, rapists, child molesters, people who take advantage and physically harm people and take advantage and physically harm the young and the old and those who can't defend themselves. We must change mandatory sentencing in this country because we're filling our prisons up with too many people who need drug rehabilitation instead of prison time. We need to get rid of mandatory sentences for every crime. Sentencing of people convicted of crime should be solely at the discretion of the juror, the jury, and or the judges in that case. No one else. Not Congress saying a mandatory sentence for a little bit of crack is more than the mandatory sentence for a little bit of cocaine. We got to get rid of mandatory sentences because too many murderers are being set out. Even if it's one, it's too many murderers being set free to make room for mandatory sentencing of drug offenders. People who get caught with a little bit of drugs, they need drug rehabilitation or a fine, but not jail time. Jail ain't going to do them no good. Rehabilitation or drug rehabilitation will do them some good. All the convicted prisoners in America have someone or a group of people who love them. Their mothers, their fathers, their sons, their daughters, their brothers, their sisters, their family, their spouses, their lovers. We don't need to punish their innocent family members by shipping them off to prisons that their family can't come see them. We need to make sure that we don't treat prisoners like animals to just simply punish and get revenge. Prison should be about justice, punishment, and rehabilitation together. We need to get rid of the death penalty. It's just too expensive. It costs millions of dollars more for every death penalty case. So for budgetary reasons, we should get rid of the death penalty. The death penalty costs us way too much money. Death penalty costs us millions of more dollars for a death penalty case with all the people appealing and appealing and appealing. But that's not the real reason to get rid of the death penalty. The real reason to get rid of the death penalty is the death penalty is an easy way out for a murderer. Life in prison without parole, that's punishment. That's more justice. But the number one reason to get rid of the death penalty is DNA evidence. Every year, more people are set free from the death penalty with DNA evidence. They're proven to be innocent. Since Europeans first came to this country to now, we've executed over 15,000 people. 15,000 people we have put to death. And how many of those were innocent? We know how many's been set free now on DNA evidence, so you can extrapolate back for the ones who've been put to death, how many of those were actually innocent. Their blood of the innocent people put to death on death row is on someone's hands. If it's on your hand, you know it's on your hand. You cannot go to an executed man who later out you find out is innocent and go to his grave and say, "We're sorry. You were wrongly convicted of murder and put to death. So live the rest of your life as best you can." You can't tell that to a dead man. You can go to someone in prison who is in prison for life without parole, who's been wrongly convicted, and say, "Look, we're sorry. Now you can go live the rest of your life as a free man." And the states, all the states have programs to take care of people who've been wrongly convicted. So that part's taken care of. We must ensure that there is justice for everyone in this land. We must ensure that there is justice for the victims, that there is justice for their family. There is justice for the families of the convicted criminal, and that there is justice for the convicted criminal, and there's justice for the wrongly convicted prisoner. We need more peace and compassion. We need more kindness and understanding. We need justice for everyone. My name is Paul Pettis. I wrote this message. My name is Paul Pettis. I approve this message.